We are two of the largest, developing countries with huge populations and a vast, demand for education and higher education. At any point, so please interject if you like. So my point is generally to say that I think we have to tap into the untapped potential of India-Brazil educational cooperation. The obstacles to this, in my view, are something that we collectively need to brainstorm how we can overcome this. The first one, of course, is the physical distance. You've all been traveling long, taking long flights, and we are geographically not close by. The second is the language barrier, given that we are a Commonwealth country, we are a former British colony, so English is far more widely prevalent in our university system and both teaching and research. So this can be a barrier, but we can also bridge it, given that I know that many of the top Brazilian universities are moving towards exclusive English-based learning. And I think the real challenge is for us to frame the India-Brazil mobility of students and faculty and research initiatives under a kind of a compelling narrative. So what's the narrative? Why should our students come to Brazilian institutions or vice versa? Why should we have joint research, joint research collaborations, student mobility? My view is we should emphasize the fact that we have these shared commonalities and we have something to learn from each other because of the similarities. So for example, last week I was in Kerala, down south, where we were doing the IBSA academic forum of India, Brazil, South Africa. We had diplomats, the Sherpas of the three countries, as well as intellectuals from the three countries. And one of the things we did was to actually lay out a roadmap for strategically encouraging our students and professors and intellectuals to visit each other and to spend time at each other's institutions and to advance this, because without the push, and the argument was we are similar because we have these organizations like BRICS and IBSA, and because we have similar goals to change the existing world order, and because we have had long histories of cooperation. So I think we need to, and I will request you all to share your insights on what the barriers may be, but we have to overcome the barriers with this compelling narrative, in my view. And that can be created only by spreading the message, especially among students, because the student mobility is the key. My colleague, Professor Kalyani, runs these initiatives and she will be able to speak more about them, but I wanted to give a general introduction to why Brazil matters to us and why we want to expand this cooperation. The full introduction of our university will be given by our Vice Chancellor in the next session after lunch. So I will not give you the comprehensive thing about the university, the vision, the founding and all that. You will get that later. But maybe I'll take a moment to just mention the schools we have and the specialties and the academic departments we have. So Jindal University is 10 years old, and we have around 4,500 students and over 400 full-time faculty. We have 8 schools. The best known and the largest is the School of Law. Then we have a School of Business. We have a School of International Affairs that I head. We have a School of Public Policy. We have a School of Liberal Arts. We have a School of Journalism. And am I missing one?
Art and Architecture.
Yeah, we have a School of Art and Architecture. We have a School of Banking and Finance. And we hope to establish a School of Environmental Studies in time to come. So this is an exclusive humanities and social science university. So we don't do the STEM disciplines, science, technology, engineering, and all those. As you know, India is better known for these fields internationally, mainly for computer science and software and these kind of. But we don't do those things because there are many other institutions covering them. So our focus is on humanities and social sciences. And we have fairly internationalized and have done so many different types of collaborations with foreign universities. My colleague can mention some. But the point is that, as I said before, we are actively looking for partners from Global South and to encourage a mindset change among our students. Sir, please.
Good morning. Nice to be here. Thanks for welcoming us.
How many international students do you have, and where do they come from, mostly?
Thank you, sir. The question is about how many international students we have. As a percentage, it's low. As a percentage of total student body, I think it's not even 10%. That's our strategic goal. Yeah, please.
So we have different kinds of international students who come for different durations. For the full-time degree student, we have at any given time we have about 50 students, 50. And in the last few years, we've seen students from various parts of Africa come and study here, including some Portuguese-speaking students from Mozambique. In the last couple of years, I would say we've drawn more students from within this region. So Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Maldives, Afghanistan, Nepal, China. That is as far as our full-time students. We also have exchange students. The exchange students come from different parts of the world. Any place where we have collaborations, we're getting, and that is also increasingly we're seeing students from across Europe, from across Australia, the US, UK. We've seen a lot of Chinese students also coming on exchange. And then we have 3 or 4 flagship programs, which are our short-term India immersion programs, where students come for a 2 or 3 week experience, and they spend time on our campus, and they also do study visits around this region. And a couple of programs that I would mention is one is our program at Jindal University in China, where each year they send our students for 3 weeks from across the university studying different disciplines. They do an India immersion program here, which is a very successful and highly rated program. And we have another prestigious program which is funded by the Australian government under the New Colombo Plan, where 50 students from 6 different Australian universities, they come and study here every year in January for almost the entire month. And we've been running similar programs for groups from Israel, for groups from Syria, many different parts of the world. Unfortunately, none yet from Brazil. We have students, just to say a little bit more about student mobility, we have 2 law school level partnerships with 2 Brazilian institutions, both are FGVs, the one in Sao Paulo and the one in Rio. And we have also a couple of collaborations with think tanks in Brazil, where our students from Jindal School of International Affairs have gone and done internships, research stays. Again, we've not been able to attract students from Brazil yet as much as our students have gone and taken the opportunity to study there. Always coming back with a very positive experience.
I just want to add one thing. Although our student profile is still primarily Indian, full-time students, our full-time faculty profiles is quite diverse. And like private universities in other developing countries, we have tried to attract faculty, scholars and researchers and teachers from around the world. So I think the current university ratio is around 20% of the full-time faculty are non-Indians, drawn from many nationalities, Western as well as non-Western. In fact, I have a Brazilian colleague in the School of International Affairs. She's on maternity leave, unfortunately. So we have a Center for Latin America Studies that she runs. Her name is Karin Costa Vasquez. And she's South-South Cooperation Specialist. But in the School of International Affairs, which I head, for example, our ratio is almost 50%. 50% non-Indians to 50%. So we have a very, very global faculty base, and that you will hear from our Vice Chancellor. That was one of the strategies to be able to be noticed internationally, to get into the rankings, and also to produce high quality research and teaching in our classrooms. Because the traditional Indian universities have not been open to foreign faculty and foreign collaborations much. They are fairly opaque and happy with the status quo. So as a new private university, and you will all appreciate this, as a new private university, it's just 10 years old, we have consciously tried to create more and more international linkages. Much more, much less bureaucratic and process driven, and much more interested in practical cooperation that can create opportunities for student mobility as well as faculty mobility. So this India immersion program, by the way, which my colleague is mentioning, we've done this for a number of countries: Australians, Americans, Chinese, Taiwanese. This is something I will float, and we can share the template of the kind of program we do. If you have Asian studies programs in your university, or maybe Asia Pacific studies, or generally international studies or regional studies, or study of religion, language, these kind of things, we can actually custom design these short courses of 15-20 days or a few weeks for your students. They could come in, live on campus, and interact with our students, and also take this course. We give them a certificate. You may give them credit at the end of it. This can be a good starter, because a full semester or a full degree program, to attract students from the Western Hemisphere may be a bit of a challenge to start with. But short-term study program is something that we will be happy to circulate the templates of what has been done in the past. Let me also add another element of our university which will be of interest to you as leaders of Brazilian institutions. We are into a lot of trainings, what we call the capacity building. And we have been training civil servants and civil society people, journalists, and military personnel, not only of India but of other developing countries, often in collaboration with partner universities abroad. So, for example, we just completed a major training for Afghan college lecturers from Afghanistan in curriculum development. They were here for 10 weeks, and this was in partnership with a US university and supported by a US government grant. So we do similar things with other partner universities to train people who could be from government or NGOs or lawyers or civil society, journalists, and so on. So this is some area where I hope, if there is a attempt to revive the IPSA and the BRICS training components. So if an Indian university and one or more Brazilian universities pair up and we apply jointly for trainings of identified groups, could be any of these, could be diplomats or officials from ministries on many subjects, around on a variety of subjects. We could put together something and we could apply for grants. So if that is something of interest, I will request you to think about it, because we are a credible partner to implement these kind of foreign funded and foreign supported training programs or capacity building programs. We could also consider more innovative things, which is the long distance learning for our students. We have done a few of those. Maybe Kalyani knows more about these global classroom type courses we do with foreign universities. Do you want to say something?
Yeah, sure. So this is usually a faculty-led initiative. Sometimes it's purely because the faculty member is based abroad for the duration of that semester. What we have done more often is host international faculty members or guest lecturers from anywhere from the length of a few weeks to an entire semester under various funded programs. So we just had a Fulbright scholar teaching intellectual property recently here, earlier this semester. We've hosted scholars pretty much from around the world under such programs.
Yeah, so faculty mobility, that is something we can also examine, because student mobility is easier. But you're all administrators of universities, and we don't let go of our faculty easily because they are needed to teach during semesters. But if we could do actually a reciprocal thing where some of our faculty would come and reside in your universities for a whole semester or sort of duration, teach maybe a course on Asia and India's role in the emerging world or something like that, or other areas of interest to you, please let us know. And vice versa, we would want more Latin America knowledge to be spread in this country. Because interestingly, because of this distance and the language factor, the knowledge and understanding of Latin America or South America generally is very low among our students, as well as the general public. Most people know Brazil because of your yellow shirts and the football team. That's all. Beyond that, yeah? Yes, please.
Sobre a possibilidade de cooperação de corpo docente num período curto. Nós temos várias universidades brasileiras que são avaliadas pelo critério de internacionalização nos seus programas de doutorado. No semestre, nós temos uma rede de universidades que se interessam por cursos de curta duração. Eu não sei se uma iniciativa se nós levantarmos as informações das áreas específicas de interesse e a Universidade de Jindal, da mesma forma, aponta aquilo que tem de melhor, de especificidade nos seus mestrados e doutorados. E assim podemos verificar os interesses de cada uma das universidades.
Thank you, sir. Point noted, and we will circulate the existing degree programs and the faculty that we have. And you can then suggest if there are areas of matching interest. So our scholars in residence, is something we want to encourage because it brings expertise that we don't already have, and vice versa. So if you don't have an Asia specialist or an Asia-focused scholars, we could have one or two of them coming for a short duration and teaching your students. And likewise, we want Latin America, everything, history, politics, economics, legal systems. These are the areas, even culture. These are the areas where, because we do social science and humanities primarily, if we have your professors coming for a short duration on a reciprocal basis, they could offer courses, elective courses for our students, and they will be well subscribed because, as I said, we lack expertise on your region, on your part of the world. Yes, sir.
Mais uma. Qual a questão prática de custos? Né? Se o professor vem para cá e a questão de residência, terá que ficar aqui 2 ou 3 semanas neste campus, como que vocês tratam essa questão, tanto para professores como para estudantes? Né? Se o estudante nosso tiver interesse na arte de relações internacionais ou direito.
I will just take the point about the students. Our hostel charges will apply. We will not charge any tuition fee. So that's a very big, it's not even $300 US a month for food, accommodation, laundry, and access to all the facilities for the students. So I think it's fairly affordable. Usually the exchange students are either sponsored by the institution or by themselves. So if they are here for a full semester, 4 months, 4 months of, the cost will be approximately 300 US a month. So in that sense, it's quite affordable. For faculty, usually, if it's on reciprocal basis, we offer guest house accommodation free of charge, without any, because they're teaching our students, right? That's a huge benefit for us. So there's absolutely no charge in terms, and they also have complimentary access to our dining hall and all those things, and access to the facilities without any cost. So it's only the airfare, and the heads of the institution must give them leave, to come here for some time. And the same applies for us, because we cannot spare our people during semester. Usually it's tight, but if it's reciprocal, it works because the replacement is zero, because one goes and then the other comes from the other side. So that's something very doable, and we will invite any of you to suggest any areas. So I will share with you the full list of our faculty and the kind of degree programs and specializations. And please let us know if you want any of them to come over to your university for one semester, shorter term. We can certainly encourage our scholars. Brazil will be an attraction. Many of them want to go, and some of our colleagues actually work on this South-South and other kinds of developing country issues, and they will benefit not only coming and teaching in your universities to your students, but also advancing their own research for publication. And I think they can conduct interviews and use your university as a base to also branch out and do field work and such things in Brazil. I think it will be a huge attraction. I can say that out of our 450 or so faculty, there will be 20 or more keen to do this kind of thing in a Brazilian university if there is a hosting mechanism.
Não, eu vou fazer então depois.
Maybe we can take a set of questions together and address
A questão cultural, né? Eu não tenho dúvida que temos que construir uma narrativa persuasiva, e também não tenho dúvidas que podemos colaborar, avançar na nossa colaboração, porque temos desafios semelhantes. Somos países com culturas ricas e diferentes. Como que vocês tratam a questão de pessoas com outras culturas, né, do mundo ocidental? Se há uma preparação, se há um cuidado em orientar os estudantes e professores?
Ainda sobre a reciprocidade, nós acreditamos muito que é possível fazer uma parceria desde que haja reciprocidade entre as duas instituições. No Brasil é muito comum que o nosso aluno deixe o seu trabalho, o seu emprego, em busca de um sonho, de uma experiência internacional. Acredito que aqui na Argentina também não seja diferente. A minha pergunta é: vocês acreditam que é possível também fazer uma parceria nos moldes de reciprocidade para os alunos? Ou seja, o seu aluno não vai pagar alojamento no meu país, mas o meu também não vai pagar aqui.
Thank you very much, both excellent questions. Let me come to the cultural issue first. So, India is a very, very diverse country. I come from a region which is completely different to where we are right now. So it's very hard to distill India into one message and send it to students, right? On top of that, right now the Indian elections are being covered in the Western media, and the coverage is just horrible. And usually the coverage of India in the Western media is just terrible, right? It's just all bad news. stampedes, sexual assaults, and just the bad news, right? and disasters. What we try to do as an institution is, first of all, the fact that we are a residential campus really helps the international students a lot. The other thing is that we are close to Delhi, but we're not in Delhi, right? So you have a world here and you have a world outside, and you can, depending on how comfortable you are, you can step in and out. We do prepare the student. My office prepares any international student who is coming in advance with all the information that we can give them in practical terms. And we are also constantly available to the students in case they need any assistance beyond that. Right? So we make it our high priority to take good care of our international students. But then we also find over time they don't need us, because our student body also kind of takes them in. They make their friends. They make friends with the families of our students, and they really have an all-round very good experience. Beyond that, I'm actually, as a practitioner of internationalization, I am not in favor of doing 100% controlled, delivering 100% controlled experience to the student, because I think the main learning that any student can have coming to India is learn how to operate in diversity and amidst chaotic conditions sometimes, right? So if we're trying to control every last thing for them, they're missing that most important learning opportunity. We cannot forget the fact that the student is not just coming to study at your institution. More importantly, they're coming for a life experience. And what are they going to take away from it if they don't get a genuine, full-on, in-your-face Indian experience, right? And you may have heard that a lot of people come to India and find God, right? Like, why do they find God? And I've really thought about this, like, is God only in India, right? It's not true that God is only in India. I've realized that the reason people come to India and find God is because the only rational explanation for why things still work when everything is so chaotic is that there must be a God. Right? So that's why people don't find God when they come to India. They start believing that God must exist if things are getting done. Right? So, in general, the students have a very good positive experience. Where they have some difficulties, they always learn from it, and they always go back happier and more enriched.
The question about the reciprocity, we can do it, sir. We can do it the way you're suggesting, where we will not charge, tuition anyway is not charged. But if we have the equivalent number going, we can also consider, no hostel fee. Although the hostel fee, as I said, is quite minimal. It's less than 300 US a month. The point about encouraging students to come, in my experience, it works if you have a shepherd. Some faculty member in your school or university who has an interest in this region, in South Asia or Indo-Pacific in general, or Asia in general, and who motivates the students to come on a trip. Usually these programs, if it's a group, then like the immersion program I mentioned for learning about Indian politics and history and economy and culture, those things you must obviously send a group along with a faculty member. If it's a 1 or 2 or 3, then obviously the students come on their own. But either case, you need a shepherd. You need somebody who's like an advocate for India. And same on our side, an advocate for Brazil, who says, you're missing something if you don't go and get that experience. It's something unique, something similar to us in many ways. We are both rising powers, and we need to understand each other, because we will remake the world order. So it's that kind of thing. If we have that message, and if we have active, advocacy for it by professors, then it's easy to find the demand for this kind of thing. On our side also, most of the students tend to focus on Western countries. They want to go to Europe or North America for semester abroad or dual degree or shorter term programs. So it's a hard sell for us to say, look at Brazil. it's a rising power, and it's we have so much in common with them, much more than in the US, and we need to actually cooperate much more closely economically and also at the level of people to people and education. So we need a kind of and it will help if any of your universities have faculty from this region. It will help. Even if they don't belong to this region, if they specialize in this region in their research as scholars, it will help. It will help create the demand from the students. Ma'am, you had a question.
Vocês têm aqui o programa de incentivo a alunos carentes?
So airfare is something we cannot, there's no provision for us to cover airfare. Living expenses, as I said, they are fairly minimal. Look at the facilities here, and if there are students who you would recommend from your institution, we can even consider a scholarship of some sorts for them to come and be here for some time. But airfare is something, that we are, as you know, we don't get any taxpayer subsidy as a private university. So we rely primarily on student fee and research grants. So that, that's a limitation. But for the kind of infrastructure the students will have here, the costs I think are quite minimal. Sir, please.
Primeiro ver se é contigo que eu tenho algumas perguntas mais de gestão e de custos, alguns percentuais de pagamento de mensalidades, salário de professor. Eu queria entender um pouco mais essa questão da governança, se é nesse ambiente aqui que a gente faz isso.
So the best person to talk about it will be our Vice Chancellor. So you're meeting him at 2 o'clock?
Okay.
Yeah. So you can shoot as many questions about the governance. Recently we got nominated for the Times Higher Education Governance Leadership Best Governance Team or something category.
Asia Awards.
Yeah.
The THE Asia Awards, and we were nominated under 2 categories. We didn't win either. One was for leadership and management, and one was for internationalization.
So at the level of Vice Chancellor, I think he can give you a bigger view of the hiring and the philosophy behind it, the retention of staff, the ratios, the salaries, and the incentive structures. We are actually, in a way, both of us are professors, so all we can say is, and we lead smaller teams. The Vice Chancellor runs the whole thing, so he can give a bigger picture. But I can tell you at the level of the school, this is a very faculty-driven university with a lot of power in the hands of individual schools and faculty members themselves. So it's not a very centralized thing where there is like a template and everyone has to follow it. So we have everything from course curriculum design to floating of electives to teaching methods to your research interests, your publication choices. Everything there's a lot of autonomy for faculty. So in that sense, it's a very decentralized kind of university. But at the same time, there is a JGU, the university-wide motto and value system, and there are university-wide offices. For example, Professor Kalyani's office doesn't belong to a single school. It looks for supporting study abroad and all these programs for all the schools. So in a way, and likewise there is one for academic coordination, there is one for rankings. Am I missing any university-wide other than this? So we have quite a few such offices that are cross-cutting, student initiatives. So there are a number of areas where we have university-wide, you can say supervisory or regulatory bodies. But that doesn't mean that, so it's a continuous dialogue between the schools and these let's say, I'm in international relations, we call it supranational, like the EU is a supranational and the individual countries are members. So it's a bit of like a supra school structures, and we have to, it's a give and take between the two, and there is close cooperation. Vice Chancellor can throw more light on this, on talent acquisition, talent retention, HR policies, so he will be able to better give you a sense of how it works. But at the level of schools and individual departments, we try to, as I said, give maximum autonomy to the scholars. Now, the ratio we are maintaining is almost 1 to 10. 400 plus faculty and 4,500 students. So that's something we, is very unique in India. And we are able to do that because of the corporate philanthropy of Mr. Jindal, who is a steel tycoon, who gave a huge philanthropic contribution to set up this institution 10 years ago. So that kind of cushion we had to be able to have a healthy faculty-student ratio. Vice Chancellor can talk more about it. It's very unusual in the Indian context. The average is one faculty member to 50 or 60 students in India. Here it's almost 1 to 10 or 1 to 12. So in that sense, this is a niche university. It is small, and as I said, only humanities and social sciences. So these are all the strategies. In a way, in fact, it was a conscious decision as part of the leadership and the image building and the identity formation of the university to limit ourselves to humanities and social sciences. Because if we didn't, there are so many, 850 or more universities in India. 850. Out of whom, I guess, a couple of hundred must be private or more. Most of them, don't do this model, because this model in a way is like a transplant, because we have imported a lot of good practices from other parts of the world. The faculty, almost all of us have studied abroad, gotten foreign degrees, have come back. Our Vice Chancellor, for example, is a Harvard alumnus. Professor Kalyani and me have been to London School of Economics. Sorry. Yeah. So now we discovered the connection. Different years. So what I'm saying is, it is a kind of an elite private university model. This is what you're seeing here. And it is quite different from the mainstream Indian universities, where very few teachers, very few qualified good teachers, and large numbers of students. So in that sense, this is an exclusive model that you're seeing. And our friend Gustavo is here from the embassy, and maybe he can talk about the collaboration with the university, because Gustavo is not only a diplomat from the Brazilian embassy here, but also pursuing a part-time PhD program in the School of International Affairs at our university. Is Karan Mathur here? I didn't notice. Okay, sure. So, Gustavo, maybe you want to have a word? Tell them about Jindal, because you are our student.
Falo português ou inglês? Português? Agora é português. Bom dia, gente. Estou um pouco atrasado aqui. Vamos vê-los de novo. Eu sou um pouco, para mim é interessante, bom, tá aqui porque eu fiz um doutorado aqui, né? Antes de vir para cá, foi muito interessante, porque eu falei, bom, vou estudar na Índia, né? O que é estudar na Índia, né? Qual que é o mundo? Eu estava morando na Indonésia e eu já, na verdade, estava fazendo o meu mestrado em Berkeley, estava vindo para cá, eu falei, já quero chegar lá com alguma coisa engatilhada. E daí eu comecei a pesquisar bastante sobre as instituições de ensino superior da Índia. As públicas ainda são as melhores, entendeu? No geral, assim. Mas é um processo que está um pouco acontecendo no Brasil também, de alguma forma, que as públicas elas vão decaindo muito, né? E falta de investimento, falta de infraestrutura e tal. Ainda tem os principais professores, mas o que acaba acontecendo é que aqui, por exemplo, eles estão investindo muito pesado. Então, o faculty deles, os professores, é de um nível absurdo, assim, de alto. Sei lá, tem uma coisa interessante na Índia também, que as pessoas do serviço público têm que se aposentar com 60 anos, é compulsório. Então, assim, com 60 anos, o pessoal ainda é muito jovem. E daí, o que você faz aposentado compulsório com 60 anos? Bom, você vai se juntar ao think tank, você vai começar a dar aula. Então, assim, por exemplo, aqui os caras têm... bom, aqui em particular, porque eles estão investindo muito pesado, mas se for ver as faculdades privadas aqui, tem muito assim, ex-embaixador, estou falando do curso de Relações Internacionais, mas, por exemplo, em outras áreas também, são ex-autoridades mesmo, que acabam vindo da aula, entendeu? O que faz, por exemplo, uma sala dessa, pô, isso aqui é uma sala de aula, gente, sabe? Enfim, vocês têm faculdade, tá, não sei o nível de investimento de cada um de vocês, mas é uma coisa séria o que os caras estão investindo nisso. E é um business fantástico aqui na Índia, né? E eu estou muito satisfeito, é um programa, enfim, é interessante. Eu acho que o nível é bom, é realmente bom. Eu já estudei várias instituições, eu estou fazendo, é meu 6º degree, tá? Então, fiz 2 faculdades, 3 mestrados, eu sou uma pessoa meio, eu não consigo parar muito. E eu estou achando muito bom, eu estou satisfeito, eu acho que... E a Jindal, até um dos motivos que a gente, na agenda, né, quis trazer vocês aqui, é porque eu acho que eles estão trazendo o que tem de mais moderno, de novo, no sistema de educação, assim, porque eles estão investindo muito mesmo, eles têm muita grana, a verdade é essa. Tem outras que são bacanas, mas, por exemplo, a MIT, que é uma faculdade bem famosa também, bem maior até que a Jindal, mas aqui eu acho que eles estão na vanguarda do que pode ser o ensino, uma universidade de ensino, enfim, não, uma universidade na Índia, privada, eu acho que vocês estão tendo um espaço emocional do que pode ser uma super referência para eles. Daí vai o critério de vocês, legal, não tem problema, não tem, enfim, né? Isso vocês sabem muito melhor do que eu. Mas eu acho que é isso, assim, só para um depoimento.
Deixa eu perguntar uma coisa, você falou que é um business bom. E aqui a gente tinha entendido, então, de que não pode ter lucro com a educação, tem que investir, tem que ser mais no sentido de fundação.
Olha, gente, sinceramente, bom, eu melhor responder depois para você. Depois eu tenho a minha resposta.
Yeah, so our philanthropist, in whose name, his father's name, this university is created, is worth some 30 billion or something like that US. So he doesn't need the small change from a university like ours. So what he has done is he gave this like an endowment kind of thing, but a different model, and at the beginning. And now we are self-sufficient in revenues. And whatever the university generates in revenue remains with us. So it doesn't, it's like, as I said, chump change for Navin Jindal. So this university, you may hear more about the turnover, the annual figures and all from the Vice Chancellor. It's too small for a multi-millionaire like him. So he is not involved in day-to-day operation or in collecting the fee revenue from here. So this is a non-profit model. It's a complete non-profit model. Whatever surplus is generated remains with the university. And I go back to my earlier point, this is a faculty-driven, so the Vice Chancellor and the faculty members have the power for most of the financial decisions too. So in that sense, it's a non-profit. It's totally not. There are some Indian universities where the owners, quote unquote, or the founders, look to make money out of education. For Mr. Jindal, this is CSR, corporate social responsibility. He's a multi-billionaire, he's got operations in Africa and around India and the Middle East and steel and power. So for him, it is about reputation, it's about intangible benefit. He was a member of parliament twice in the past. So when people in high circles meet him and say, I heard good things about this university you created, that's all he gets, you see. So it's like the US private universities and perhaps also similar to US, where the donor or the founder or the philanthropist does not get any material payback from this. It's for reputation, goodwill, it's for, for example, Mr. Jindal, for your context, he has been a member of parliament from this state of India. So that's one of the reasons why this university is located here. So they are natives of Haryana, Jindal, the family. So for them, it's like a huge goodwill thing that they are building something for India and putting Haryana on the map. This place Sonipat was not known internationally before our university came out. Now there's an ecosystem. There are 3 more universities, good ones in the 4-5 kilometers range, close to our campus. So for him, this is a non-profit, but this is ultimately for his name and recognition to expand. So he doesn't get a single rupee from this institution.
We want to make sure we are comfortable for the lunch break. So maybe we'll just take a couple of more questions, but if you can hold them until a couple of colleagues have joined us. They are from our 2 institutes and also from another one of our schools. So they will just speak briefly and talk about, we have Professor Moshmi, who is a colleague from the International Institute for Higher Education Research and Capacity Building, IIHED. We have Colonel Mathur, who is with our Executive Education, the Institute of Leadership Development and Executive Education, JILD, which is our 2nd institute. And we have Vice Dean Ram Ramchandran, who's from the Jindal School of Banking and Finance. So I'll just request them to address you for a couple of minutes each, and then we can come back until we have to leave for lunch with your questions. If you can please hold them.
Hello everybody. I would like to share with you a little bit about what we do at the International Institute of Higher Education, Research and Capacity Building. Our Vice Chancellor, Professor C. Rajkumar, is the director of the institute. I work with him as a deputy director and associate professor. Our work at the institute is manifold. Actually, we collaborate a lot with Kalyani's office for study abroad programs. Our office centrally coordinates and administers all the study abroad programs that are run by different schools of JGU across the different schools. There are faculty coordinators, but we also have a coordinator centrally at the International Institute of Higher Education, and we collaborate with Kalyani's office to send our Jindal students for summer study abroad to different universities in US, in Europe, and in different other parts of the world. At the same time, we also do research and policy advocacy, and also we host visiting scholars and researchers at our institute. So we welcome you. If you know researchers, both students and faculty who would like to come and do research in India, we welcome you. We would be happy to host you at our institute at this university. And apart from that, we are also in the process of launching a master's and doctoral program focusing on international higher education and a certificate program in higher education administration and management. So that's my little bit sharing about the work of International Institute of Higher Education. Yes, we have also done a lot of training and capacity building work. Thank you for reminding me that. We have done training and capacity building work both nationally within India. We have run training programs for faculty members from different Haryana state colleges and universities. Recently, we just ran a 10 weeks training program for faculty from Afghanistan who were here in collaboration. We ran this program in collaboration with the university in the US, a program that was funded by the USAID. So apart from the research, policy advocacy, and also international exchange in higher education, we also do a lot of training and capacity building work with faculty. And now we are actually in the process of taking it forward into really developing a proper certificate program for faculty members, or really for faculty enrichment, those who are already in profession and those who are also thinking about joining higher education as a faculty in terms of their career and profession. Thank you so much. Welcome to JJU, and we hope that we would be able to collaborate with your universities and host some of your scholars at our institute. Thank you.
Good afternoon and welcome to Jindal. My name is Ram Ramachandran, and I am the professor of practice and vice dean at the School of Banking and Finance. So, the School of Banking and Finance is one of the newest schools at the university, and we focus primarily on educating our students in the areas of banking, insurance, wealth management, and other financial services. Because we are new, we had the absolute flexibility in developing a curriculum that was real top notch. We focus a lot on the new emerging technologies like fintech and blockchain, how that is changing the areas of finance and financial services. And what we have also done is we have developed absolutely exciting immersion program for folks coming from outside, folks who are interested in the area of finance or banking, want to learn about the ecosystem within India, how the startup communities and the entrepreneurship activities are happening in the areas of banking and finance. So we have developed a very exciting 2-3 week program that you should take advantage of. Have your students come over and spend 2-3 weeks with us, and we can definitely do that, as well as obviously the broader semester exchange program as well. Thank you so much, and again welcome.
Thank you. So we have a School of Business, but also School of Banking and Finance. And maybe it's because at the recent IPSA event we did, India, Brazil, South Africa, where Gustav was also there, we were discussing launching joint degree programs, where we could maybe focus on emerging markets or emerging powers generally. Of course, Brazil is part of it, and so is India, and maybe we could have a situation where 1 year or 1 semester the student is here, another semester student is in a South African institution, third semester goes to a Brazilian institution, then comes back here and in the end and gets a joint degree from all of us. So those are some of the ideas we've been discussed at the IPSA and the BRICS level. And we welcome any thoughts how we can innovate and create these kind of dual degree programs, or joint degree programs. I request Colonel Rajat Mathur, who is part of our Leadership Development Institute, to also address.
Thank you, sir. Good morning to all of you. I am Colonel Rajat Mathur. I am part of the Jindal Institute of Leadership Development and Executive Education. And I have my colleague Mr. Mahapatra also here with me. Our institute is headed by General Kocher, who's unfortunately not being able to attend this today. I think Dr. Shriram has already spoken about our institute. We are one of the institutes of Jindal Global University, and we are involved in capacity building. We conduct programs for the executives, for the government officers of the Indian government, the state governments, for the public sector undertakings, and also for the corporates. Also, we conduct programs for foreign countries. We've done programs for the government of Afghanistan, for the government of Bangladesh, wherein their officers have come and spent time with us about 2 weeks, and they undergo programs. I would like to touch upon the topics that we cover in our programs. We are basically doing programs for the government officers in public policy and governance, in leadership, competency mapping, stress management, public finance management, public budgeting, finance and budgeting. Also, we are doing programs for the public sector undertaking units in topics like women empowerment, etiquettes, in customer management. So, also in corruption, anti-corruption, administrative capacity enhancement. So these are the topics we are covering, and we are looking for collaborations with foreign countries where we can send our government officers to other countries for short programs. We are already doing programs with the Oxford University, with the business school in London, with the LSE, also with LKY School Singapore. So we look for collaborations. We'd love to collaborate with institutes in Brazil, where we could send our officers for short training programs. Also, in case you would like to send people to JGU, we would like to conduct programs for them. So that's in a nutshell what Jindal is doing. Thank you, and we look for collaboration with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel. So there were more questions. Yes.
Hi. I think Portuguese is a big barrier for students to go to Brazil. Do you think if we maybe arrange someone to come here and teach about Portuguese and Brazilian culture would improve students' interest in going to Brazil with the exchange program? Would that be possible?
Yes, actually we do have a large group of students learning Spanish because it's much more widely spoken. It's a UN language. Portuguese speaking students have come here from Angola and Mozambique and have improved their English and have adjusted to this. So language course will definitely help, but I think most of the students are very pragmatic and they think in terms of how good will this be on my CV, and because of the difference in the scale, because Spanish is much bigger and wider and more widespread, people see more value. In fact, Spanish is the largest subscribed foreign language in our university. In some of our courses like International Affairs, non-English foreign language is mandatory. So they learn Arabic, they learn Chinese, Persian, Spanish and French, but Mandarin Chinese. Thank you. So, but Portuguese is globally seen as a marginal language. So it's very hard to convince the students to take up something like that, unless they see, okay, I do this, I get a job opportunity in, I don't know, Wales, to work in Brazil or something like that, So they need to be incentivized to do something like this.
That said, if you have already taught programs in English, then our students would already be very interested, I think, to come and spend short periods of time.
See, it's so interesting you mentioned the language. So because we are training a lot of people in Spanish, some of them go up to advanced level, and they actually go to Spanish-speaking countries in your neighborhood. So I remember one of our students had advanced fluency in Spanish. He went and spent 6 months in Valparaiso in Chile, learning in native Spanish in the classroom there, So that's the advantage of these historically dominant languages. I mean, I know it doesn't sound great from a Brazilian point of view, but Portuguese is a marginal language, so it's much harder to convince people to learn it. So we have lunch, but if any other thoughts you have, Vice Chancellor will give you a complete big picture of our university. So this we just wanted to engage with you and give you a sense of various things we do and points of potential collaboration. Kalyani, you want to add something?
Actually, I think
just make a brief note, guys, because I think that's the opportunity I'm gonna have to talk to you like more open like this. So a few things you asked about the Portuguese. As an embassy, as Brazilian government, we've been trying to bring some what we call the leitorado in Portuguese, but we have only one in India at ALU, which is a public university. But we have budget issues. And as he said, I mean, the interest for the Portuguese language is marginal here. So people go for Spanish, and then maybe sometime in the future, whatever, think about Portuguese. So that's not a. But bringing people, bringing teachers to talk about Brazil is always a must. I mean, if people come to teach in English and talk about Latin America, normally Brazil in a broader context. If you talk about Brazil in Latin America or South America or integration, South-South integration, and that's high level for that. And the other thing, as they were saying, I think you guys have an opportunity which is quite unique, because exactly what we discussed yesterday, the mutual lack of knowledge that exists between Brazil and India. You as deans, principals, owners of universities, if you start preparing your students to work more with Asia in this current global context, you're already making yourself different from like 99.9% of the high-level institutions in Brazil. And beyond the MOUs you may sign here, beyond the agreements on exchange of students, you may do something that it's a lot easier and short-term. Think about developing projects with your students about Asia, about India, and I'm pretty sure they are super open to that here, to work together on that, because I think that's an opportunity for you guys to make a huge difference in a moment in which Brazilian institutions are not yet open to these kind of things. That's just a perspective, but I think it was interesting to share with you.
I just wanted to say that we invite you to please join us for lunch now. And over lunch, we'd like to hear more from you about your institutions as well.
Thank you.